Abu, we're talking about the ISO 420-001, and I wanted to know, in layman terms, what does it do? What does it say? How does it help out? What really does it fix within the system? Go ahead.
I mean, it's really important. Like I said to you, money makes the world go round, and what that means is obviously it's got a global outreach as well. So a standard like that has a way, is a global best practice standard. And once you adhere into the standard, what that simply means is that your operation is global standard. And I think it's really important. So even if you're a bank or you're a central bank or you're running an organization and you want to ensure that you're adhering to an international standard, the ISO is really, really important. And I say to people, not necessarily every organization needs to adhere to that standard. But if you're using an artificial intelligence to enable your business to make decisions or to deliver your operation, I think it's really important for you to look at that. What does the standard entail? The standard entails some framework that's really important, not just that, but also governance that's also really important, and how you need to go about it and how you need to assess these things. And I think it's really important. So Nigeria itself, obviously we're in Africa, but we're part of the global world as well. So whatever the businesses that we're operating in Nigeria needs to demonstrate that they are adhering to international standard. And that's what the ISO does. I can't stress it enough. But so, for example, financial services, because it's really, really important, right? Financial services is an highly regulated environment. So it's really important that the players in financial services adhere to those standards, and that needs to come from the CBN as well. And then that would then filter through to all the banks as well. And I think it's absolutely critical.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's very good to say that the ISO balances innovation with accountability, and ethics and governance, and then mitigates the risks that are possible within the financial sector then.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. But beyond that as well, it also demonstrated that you are heading to international standard, because the reality is that that's what people are looking for as well. And if people want to do business with you, if people want to assess how your financial system is mature, they will absolutely use those standards to assess you as well.
Okay, so what dangers then can emerge when organizations deploy AI systems without that strong governance framework as, ISO 42001 rather?
Well, you don't want to know, but one of the key things is that the artificial intelligence can go rogue as well. And I think you don't want to do that basically, because especially if you're talking about the financial services where decisions are made, on who to lend money, who not to lend money, right? And how you can decide, fraud as well, activities as well. Because if you get it wrong, it's quite costly. So it's really important that you adhere to that standard, because that can enable you to govern that technology. So artificial intelligence is a technology, but with the standard, you have the proper governance. So can you imagine a country without governance, right? That country would be a very rogue country. Or can you imagine a country that don't have the right governance in place? That country itself would be a rogue country as well. But a country that has the proper governance, the proper structure in place, what that means is that you definitely see prosperity. That's the equivalent as well when you start talking about ISO standard being applied into an organization. And that could be financial services, or that could be any regulatory environment or regulatory regime for any, it could be health and safety, it could be manufacturing, whatever that looks like as well. And I think it's really fundamental.
So do you believe then that the early adoption of AI governance and AI governance standards could position Nigeria as a trusted African leader when it comes to responsible AI and digital finance? Is that your belief?
Absolutely. It's not just a belief. It's, of course, 100%, because without that, people can't trust, and for financial services, trust is fundamental. When trust is eroded, it is difficult for you to earn that back as well. So you don't want to do that. You want to ensure that you have the right AI governance and the right framework that can enable you so that the trust is higher, right? And because without that, people can do business with you, not just government to government, but also business to business as well. And that's something that you don't want to do as well. So I think where Nigeria is right now, it's really important that we adhere to those standards, but also it's really important that we put in the right governance in place so that people can trust us. You know, people can trust our institution. People can trust our financial system. People can trust, you know, the policies and the regulatory environment that we're operating in as well. And I think that's fundamental.
All right, I want you in the next 2 minutes to just answer these questions for me in the best way possible. The CBN right now is considering an AI governance framework for that financial industry. The question would be, why is the sector-wide AI governance critical, you know, at this stage of Nigeria's digital transformation in where we want to go? And then finally, you would say to us, what would good AI governance look like in practice, you know, for the Nigerian banks, fintechs, you know, insurers and regulators over the next decade at least?
Well, the first answer to that question is that CBN is the one that set the pace and everyone follows, right? So CBN is the referee and CBN is the one that set the rules. And I think it's really important. So kudos to CBN for doing that. I think what CBN definitely need is having the right people with the right expertise to support them to deliver that, right? The other part of the question that you just said, asked as well, is that, you know, without those things, right, we cannot obviously explore this technology in a safe way, right? Artificial intelligence is a powerful technology. It's an enabler, but also is an infrastructure as well. So, but without having the right governance in place, we can't have the right, you know, outcomes for those technologies. So the way I simply say to people is that you've got to have people that needs to take responsibility. You've got to have people to understand what the technology does and what the technology shouldn't do. You've got to have the right principle as well that the technology needs to abide to. But more importantly, you need to have the human element which have an oversight of the technology. So those are the things that's really important. And then you can use the technology very, very well for your benefit or for your advantage as well.
All right, we must thank you, Abu Abel, for your insight and the conversation and, you know, that important work that you're doing when it comes to the intersection of data, AI, and financial innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly appreciate this time.